Forever Young, Neoteny, a supplementary source of human biodiversity, by Colin Liddell. This is a Fringe Audio Reads recording. All Fringe Audio Reads are available online for private use. This is a selective recording read for fun. This is an amateur recording by a student. Visit Fringe Audio Reads online at youtube.com or find it in a search engine. Email address is fringeaudioreads@gmail.com. Reading by George Skoda. Forever Young, Neoteny, a supplementary source of human biodiversity, by Colin Liddell. Gerald Douglas MacArthur famously said that Japan was a nation of 12-year-olds. Well, he wasn't talking about the fighting abilities, as the Japanese gave the Allies the fight of their lives in World War II. Nor could such a remark have applied to their level of intelligence, as Japanese consistently outsource Westerns by an average of 5 to 6 points in international IQ comparisons. Nor was it their business acumen, as, starting from the bombed-out ruins of 1945, these 12-year-olds built their economy into the second biggest in the world in a few decades. So what the heck was MacArthur talking about? Whatever he knew it or not, he was probably talking about neoteny. Neoteny is a biological term that describes the retention of juvenile characteristics in adults. Sometimes that is widely recognized in the animal world. For example, we know that tadpoles mature into frogs, losing their juvenile aquatic character along the way. However, the ocelot species of salamander remains fully aquatic throughout its life, merely becoming a large version of a tadpole. A better-known example of neoteny is the giant panda, which retains its baby-like cuteness into adulthood. Indeed, humans have juvenile characteristics related to other primates. Our sparse bodies, hair, and enlarged heads are in fact reminiscent of baby primates. Now, many of the physical characteristics we associate with the Japanese are also characteristics we associate with children. Smoother, less hairy skin, lack of physical stature, slenderness, less voluptuous curves in women, large head-to-body ratio, flatter faces, and higher pitched voice. Very few people would argue with the ideal that the Japanese are cuter than most other races. But neoteny doesn't stop at physical characteristics. The Japanese clearly behave in a more childlike ways, the most obvious examples being the cult of cute, as exemplified by Hello Kitty, who herself shows remarkable symptoms of neoteny. They tend to be shy, read comics rather than books, and lack in a native. All this despite their higher average IQs. No one can deny the neoteny apparent in the physical characteristics of the behaviors of the Japanese. But what is the mechanism that drives it? How can the Japanese be so different from Westerners? I mean, the specific consensus is that humans only branch out of Africa about 6,000 years ago, while evolution clearly takes millions of years. How could such difference arise in such a short time? The answer can be found by looking into another famous example of neoteny, the many types of dogs that have been bred from the common wolf in the last few thousand or even few hundred years. Also, all dog breeds exhibit immature mannerism and physical features when compared with wolves, to which they are so closely related that even a laboratory DNA analysis cannot tell apart. Neoteny, by using the difference that exists between an adult and a child of species as a template of change, is able to act as an alternative form of adoption to evolution, and one that can be rapidly passed on and increased from generation to generation. By utilizing the characteristics of young wolves, like softer hair, floppier ears, looser skin, smaller legs, more playful dispositions, etc., remarkably different breeds of dogs have developed over incredibly short periods. I am convinced that something very similar has been at work with humans. In this case, though, it isn't dog breeders, but differences in geography and population density that have played the key role. The Japanese, along with several other Asian races that share similar characteristics, have long been a rice-eating nation. This is relevant because intense cultivation of rice is capable of supporting a much denser population than wheat cultivation or pastoralism. In other words, the Japanese have for 1,000 years lived with far higher population density than the peoples of Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. In the animal world, aggression rises in direct proportion to how crowded the species is. This applies especially to adult males. However, among mammals it is common for juvenile males to live together in a relative peace and harmony until they reach maturity. It seems probable that as rice-eating peoples started to live as unprecedented population densities, they started to increasingly take advantage of the juvenile characteristics of appearances and behavior offered by neoteny as by a means of diffusing the rising tensions and aggressions inherent in the new situation. The fact that Japan became an overcrowded island meant that the process was not only intensified, but also that it is neotemized population was sheltered from less neotenized populations from outside the rice-growing areas, developing into perhaps the most neotenized race on Earth. Since developing this ideal, I've been applying it left, right, and center to explain everything I see around me in this unique society. And I can tell you, it is starting to make sense now, especially that comment by Gerald MacArthur. End of Forever Young. Neonotmy, a supplementary source of human biodiversity by Colin Liddell.